watching the English newscast here on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamima. These are today's top stories. Lebanese ministers meet in what appears to be their last cabinet session 4 days before a highly anticipated parliament vote to elect a new president. Public drivers block vital roads across the country in line with a protest against the privatization of automotive inspection centers and a fee hike in services. And the UN says more than 10,000 Iraqis have fled their homes since the start of an offensive to retake Mosul from ISIL this month. Lebanese ministers have met in what appeared to be their last cabinet session 4 days before a highly anticipated parliament vote to elect a new president, who will be tasked with forming a new government. For the first time since last August, Foreign Minister Gebran Bassil, who also heads the Free Patriotic Movement and is the son-in-law of the predicted President Victor Michel Aoun, attended the cabinet meeting. Before heading into the Grand Sarai, ministers expressed hope for a new president after a 2.5-year vacuum and for a productive session in which they were to pass several pending decrees. The session was attended by all ministers with the exception of Information Minister Ramzi Rej, who is still on sick leave. Hundreds of commuters were stuck in traffic this morning when public drivers blocked vital roads across the country in line with a protest against the privatization of automotive inspection centers and a fee hike in services. The Lebanese Union of Public Drivers blocked roads leading from Shtura to Zahle in East Lebanon, Tripoli to Daniya in the north, and Tyre to Sidon in the south, among other routes. They also briefly blocked both entrances of the Damascus International Road, causing a paralyzing traffic jam. Protesters in Beirut's transportation hub of Kola were seen forcing people out of taxis and minibuses whose drivers had not joined the rally. Protesters later converged in convoy on Beirut's Riyad Solah Square in front of the Grand Sarai amid a large security presence. At least 26 civilians, including children, were killed when air raids hit a school and the surrounding area in Syria's Idlib province. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the bombing was believed to be carried out by Russian planes and targeted the village of Has, including the school complex. Elsewhere in the country, at least 3 children were killed and 14 were injured in a rebel rocket attack on a school in the government-held west of Aleppo city. A monitoring group said a child was also among at least 8 people killed in government shelling on the rebel-held town of Douma outside Damascus. The UN says more than 10,000 Iraqis have fled their homes since the start of an offensive to retake Mosul from ISIL this month. That figure is just a fraction of the displacement that aid groups expect to see when Iraqi forces reach the city limits, and some of the million-plus people thought to be inside attempt to flee. Across the region, UNHCR is stepping up its preparations to receive the displaced. More in this report.
64-year-old Turfa fled Mosul last month. She walked for 13 hours, forced to leave her son and 2 daughters behind.
طلعت من الموصل قتل وتعذيب واعدامات. هذا لا همك، اللي يشيل الموبايل يقلبونه يعدمونه. هذا قبل اللي يخلي جقارة على اسمه يقصون ايده.
Turfa stays in this school-turned makeshift shelter for women and children in the Baga camp, while she waits for a tent of her own. Over 250 families share this space. Most are new arrivals, having fled villages on the outskirts of Mosul before the offensive began.
بعد من الموصل ما ضربت ما تجاوز حدوده الواحد منهم علي. أنا ما شلته ضربته.
Witnesses helped Turfa get away, but her escape was not easy.
عبرت من فوقها واكو قوانة يشتملكينها هم عبرت من فوق القوانة بس اسمع الصوت يسوي وعبرت من فوقها صرت عبروني.
The Baga camp now shelters more than 30,000 people, with hundreds more arriving every day. More tents are being sent to the region and new camps are set to open. But families here just hope that they can soon go back home and live their lives in peace.
Strong earthquakes rock a wide area of central Italy. That's coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back. The bodies of 29 people who perished in a pool of fuel and seawater on a crowded dinghy off Libya have been found by the French aid group Doctors Without Borders. MSF said its rescue ship picked up 107 people aboard the inflatable boat off the Libyan coast on Tuesday. Meanwhile, NATO member states' defense ministers were to agree on a wider role for the alliance to help the European Union tackle the flow of migrants arriving on its shores, in particular through the Mediterranean Sea. The EU launched its Operation Sophia in 2015 in response to the migrants' crisis, with a mandate to disrupt the people trafficking networks and destroy smugglers' boats.
We have discussed ways in which NATO can support Operation Sophia in the Mediterranean, and we'll discuss also this with the ministers today. We've at the moment talked about information sharing and supporting logistics. Let me, by the way, say that just today we're starting the training of the Libyan Coast Guard in Operation Sophia, which is a very important step.
We're going to agree a wider role for NATO in maritime security to better protect the Mediterranean in particular, to help the European Union stem the flow of migrants and to counter the trafficking of arms and potential terrorists into Europe.
Stronger Europe means a stronger NATO. We are already working closer than ever before, for example in the Aegean Sea, where NATO's deployment supports Greece, Turkey and the EU's border agency Frontex. And together we are breaking the lines of human trafficking.
A series of strong earthquakes rocked a wide area of central Italy, striking fear among residents rattled by a deadly tremor in August. But there were no reports of casualties and few serious injuries. The earthquakes toppled buildings and injured dozens, according to initial reports, hitting the same region that saw nearly 300 people killed in August. The first 5.5 magnitude quake sent people running out of their houses before the second, a more destructive 6.1 magnitude one, struck 2 hours later. Rescuers working through the night and in the rain were struggling to assess the full extent of the disaster. Moving on to the United States, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has campaigned in the battleground state of North Carolina, where he tried to reach out to African American voters once again. Trump spelled out what he said was his New Deal contract for Black America, grounded in the promise of safe communities, great education, and high-paying jobs. In his words.
Today I want to talk about how to grow the African American middle class and to provide a new deal for Black America. That deal is grounded in 3 promises: safe communities, great education, and high-paying jobs. My vision rests on a principle that has defined this campaign right from the beginning, and you've seen where we've come from and where we are right now. It's called America First. Every African American citizen in this country is entitled to a government that puts their jobs, wages, and security first. I'm asking today for the honor of your vote and the privilege to represent you as your president. African American citizens have sacrificed so much for our nation. They've fought and died in every war since the Revolution, and from the pews and the picket lines, they've lifted up the conscience of our country in the long march for civil rights. Yet too many, thank you. Yet too many African Americans have been left behind. I have heard and have listened to the concerns raised by African American citizens about our justice system, and I promise that under a Trump administration, the law will be applied fairly, equally, and without prejudice. There will be no prejudice. I am very humbled beyond words to be the nominee of the party of Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people don't know that. It's the party of Abraham Lincoln. And it is my highest and greatest hope that the Republican Party can be the home in the future and forevermore for African Americans and the African American vote, because I will produce and I will get others to produce, and we know for a fact it doesn't work with the Democrats, and it certainly isn't going to work with Hillary.
Halloween is around the corner, and on this occasion, New Yorkers are already having fun with costumes and haunted houses. Alicia Powell reports.
The meaning of Halloween can mean anything from fun to fright. And in New York, there are numerous ways to celebrate. People looking for a scary good time hit up the Uninvited Awakening, New York's largest immersive haunted house, where organizers say guests will hear, see, smell, and feel fear.
As you go through it, it's all about storytelling, and you get to be immersed in this really crazy, scary world where the spirits are full contact, which means they will touch you. You do have to sign a waiver, and of course, you're in purgatory.
The experience has 45 actors roaming around 25,000 square feet, all in the hopes of spooking guests to so-called code levels.
Last week we had a code brown, and I'm sure you can imagine what that is. The poor audience member got scared so much they just went to bathroom all over themselves, all down their legs, which is really great because I buy the actors pizza if they call the code brown.
But the main event of Halloween is dressing up. Marketing director Nika Cadet at Abracadabra in Lower Manhattan say costume trends always follow pop culture.
There's tons of political things because that's going on right now, and there's a lot of Suicide Squad, which is a very popular movie over the summer. But New Yorkers are very creative and innovative, so we prefer to take one thing and mix something else and kind of make a melange of random sorts of costumes.
For Maya Blanco, the day is a chance to escape from reality.
It's a nice way to be creative. That's absolutely, like, I guess that if you're working, like you have an office work or something like that, this is one of those opportunities where you can just do anything and be anyone, you know.
But Cadet's best advice is just to enjoy the day.
It's all about having fun. I think people take Halloween too seriously. Just relax. Like, I think I've seen couples fight and argue over what costume to be, and like, it's just a day, guys. Relax, just have fun.
Halloween is celebrated around the world on October 31st. Happy Halloween!
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Lebanese ministers meet in what appears to be their last cabinet session 4 days before a highly anticipated parliament vote to elect a new president. Public drivers block vital roads across the country in line with a protest against the privatization of automotive inspection centers and a fee hike in services. And the UN says more than 10,000 Iraqis have fled their homes since the start of an offensive to retake Mosul from ISIL this month. Those are your top stories for this Thursday. I'm Linda Tamim, and I thank you all for watching.